Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about the former vice president and current Democratic presidential frontrunner, Joe Biden, of course. He recently made waves in the news by making a terrible appearance on a morning radio show that's gotten very controversial. I'm going to tell you why, because it's actually a very surprising, very shocking kind of thing he said that some might say was a bit of a joke, but it does kind of show how the Democrats feel about a certain minority group. Joe Biden was talking on the Breakfast Club show, which is a known kind of a black-centered radio show based out of a big city. And what happened here was Joe Biden was talking to the guy, and he basically kind of duffed up and said, "If you don't vote for me, you're not really black." That's kind of paraphrasing what he said. There's going to be a lot more to it. There's going to be some clips we're going to go over and some very interesting insight on it too. But right out the gate, I think you can already see this is looking pretty bad. I mean, if anyone like us said anything like that, we would be called racist as hell. If Trump said something about a minority group, saying if they don't vote for him, they're not really a minority, I mean, that would obviously not go over well. And that's why this thing's not going over too well for Joe Biden too. He's getting lots of backlash, which we're going to go over soon. But first, let's take a quick moment to check out our sponsor, the special NoBS floodlight. Okay guys, I am really excited about these special floodlights. I've been using them at my home and they are just simply amazing. They're lightweight, they have a really bright light on them and two different sensors too. I didn't actually get how it all worked until I tried one, and you're gonna be really surprised and really pleased if you try this out too. The lights are so cool. They have a solar sensor, that means they only go on at night, and then they also have a motion sensor, which means they'll stay off until someone walks by and kicks on the motion. They have LED lights on them too. There's 20 different lights in there, and they're really bright. As you can see by these pictures, you can see this deck is all lit up, this walkway. It's great. It goes in all kinds of cool places. You could put it on your porch right here. I love them. They're new floodlights. They're only for my NoBS audience here, so you have to click the link below and get in on this quick. I'm not sure the supplies will last too long, so make sure you check them out. Floodlights by NoBS. Check out the link below, only in the description. Gonna be awesome. Hopefully you guys will try them. Great, now let's get back to the Joe Biden story. As we mentioned, he was on an interview and he had one of his classic slip-ups that some might be trying to play off as a joke right now, but still, it still sounds bad even as a joke. And I know that conservatives have been deplatformed and called racist and sexist for saying far less, so I think this is worthy of bringing up and pointing out the sort of liberal hypocrisy here. Here's a first place I saw it. It's on a tweet. It's from America Rising, and they have a sort of quotation before we get to the video. It says, "If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black." The guy who's co-hosting says, "It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact that I want something for my community." So it's actually a pretty interesting response because the guy kind of looks over it, and I'm pretty sure if he had a second to think and respond honestly, he would realize how biased and offensive that was. That, or he might have just be given Biden a pass because Biden is the frontrunner for the Democrats. They want to beat Trump at all costs. So he's been kind of given this kind of a beneficial treatment from the press over and over again. We've seen it time and time again, and this could be a similar situation. So let's check out this video. It's already got 700,000 views. Pretty interesting, pretty trending. It's from the Breakfast Club. Let's take a look.
Well, Thanks so much. That's really our time. I apologize.
You can't do that to black media.
I can't do that to white media and black media because my wife has to go on at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
Okay, so it looks like this show is based out of New York. This guy hosted it. He's from the Breakfast Club, a pretty classic host. I'm not familiar with this show specifically, but these clips have popped up from time to time. They've had a lot of different interesting interviews over the years, usually with them getting some kind of controversial figure or some statement out of someone. It's kind of funny though at the same time because it's also a very pop culture influenced show. It's not super political. It's just kind of like one of those shows you listen to while you drive to work. Not a lot to it. They usually interview like celebrities and musicians. So the fact that Biden is even here is kind of already a little bit of a juxtaposition. It's like, yeah, he's got to get all the interviews he can, but it's just funny to see this show trying to be political, and the way they kind of bungle this whole interview is very interesting too, because I think a more honest, more straightforward person would call Biden out for what he's about to say. And also, he's trying to leave here. He's got to duck out. They're out of time. So it's kind of like he's too busy for this show, too, which is interesting because it is hosted by a black man. It is hosted and kind of patroned by a lot of black Americans. This is one of their favorite shows. So Biden kind of disrespecting them by leaving early and then also saying what he's about to say. It's pretty interesting.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community.
So I see that as almost the guy didn't even hear it. Like he was just ready to say something else, and he kind of just brushed over the last line of what Biden said, this, then you ain't black. I don't know if that even had a chance to register with the guy, but it probably could have. It probably should have. I mean, he's a professional interviewer. He does this stuff for a living. No one's perfect, but the fact that he just kind of let that go says a lot to me. I don't know why like Biden could kind of presume to say, oh, if you're gonna pick Trump, then you ain't black. I mean, that's pretty bold statement. That's pretty much saying, hey, you have to vote a certain way if you're this minority. And I think that harps back to kind of an older time and kind of dated time, and that really makes sense because Biden is a really old person and he's not really keen and hip to modern culture at all. Like there can be old people that are in touch, like Mr. Trump, the president. He's pretty dialed in for a 73-year-old, but Biden's a 78-year-old who probably acts like he's 105. I mean, he is older than he's already old. He cannot keep it up. And that's why he went with this old thought that, blacks have to vote Democrat. That's a classic kind of meme that's from the past. It's dated. It's proven to not be true. There's a lot of black conservatives, especially these days. There always has been black conservatives too. Thomas Sowell is a famous one, famous teacher and professor who's been conservative forever. Clarence Thomas was the famous conservative Supreme Court justice, and there's a lot of figures like that throughout history, but there's this idea, and the Democrats are usually the ones pushing it. That's why Biden's pushing it. It's this idea that blacks have to vote for them, and it's just part of their kind of scam. It's part of their propaganda push because they're trying to get votes here, so they're kind of making this whole idea and this whole premise and this kind of myth. It's like a myth now that blacks have to vote for Democrats, and I've seen it time and time again. I've seen old Democrats go through this saying. I've seen it in skits and in videos. I remember we once tried to cover a show, Blackish, which is like a black-centered show on a network channel, and they had a whole episode about how blacks just vote for Democrats, blacks just vote for Democrats, and they kind of made it into a joke, and they kind of actually countered it within the episode when you actually watch it, but it still had that underlying message. They just kind of modernized it and had one of the kids think about being conservative, and then it kind of showed that there are differences and there are people thinking differently, and it doesn't have to do with skin color. I mean, you don't have to be a Democrat if you're black. Obviously, the whole idea is Democrats like Biden push that because they want more votes and they want to kind of shame the outliers, because there is truth to some of this. There is a history here. The fact of the matter is, black people have, in majority, been voting Democrat for many, many years. They have that part there. There is some truth to this myth, okay? It's based on that. But then what they do is they try to get that to kind of expand to the whole race, like all African Americans have to vote now because they want to get those outliers, and they don't want them to keep turning conservative, which is what's been happening in recent years. And we've seen it recently. We've seen them turn conservative. We've seen prominent black conservatives rise up on the internet, on places like YouTube. There's, of course, Candace Owens, who's a pretty big player in the media now. Officer Tatum, Brandon Tatum, is another YouTuber. There's Anthony Brian Logan. There's a lot of channels like that. A lot of people, black Americans, they're not Democrats. They're strong conservatives with great viewpoints and awesome channels and content and all that fun stuff. And yeah, so that myth is pretty much dead. And I think this is kind of Biden trying to revive it and trying to bring back this whole dead meme. Here's another strong American black man who's not afraid to speak his mind and not afraid to not be a Democrat. We're, of course, talking about Kanye West right here. Here's a quote from him. It says, I will not be told who I'm going to vote on because of my color, Kanye West. And there he's wearing the MAGA hat. He's looking very cool, very fresh. And this is just reflects another thing. This is another person that's speaking outside the norm. They're not afraid to get outside of this whole Democrats and black myth and their sort of relationship that's been going on for all these years. And what has it done good? I mean, has it really helped? Do we think the Democrats have helped save black communities? Do we think that they're in a great position right now? Because I'm not sure where you stand on that question, but I do hear a lot of people complaining about racism, and I hear a lot of people coming from black areas, like Democratic blacks, saying, oh, there's racism here. They can't succeed because of racism. There's been this long going thing, all because of our bad history, because of white supremacy, all that kind of stuff. They call people 1940s Germans. But so that just raises a question. If there's all this racism and your community isn't doing well, which is something that you claim and you complain about, then why do you keep voting in the same Democrats that haven't helped you? Why are you still doing the same things that failed you before? It doesn't make sense. And it just goes to show that they need to change things up if they really want to succeed. You can't keep repeating the same failed tactic over and over and expect different results. Next, we got a few more quotes from that same interview, Biden on the Breakfast Club, and this time he has something interesting to say about some prisoners. He basically goes on to defend prisoners here. It's pretty gross, it's pretty terrible, and he totally misses the point. Let's check out this first clip.
There's only a couple things everybody has in common in jail. One is they were the victims of abuse, or their kids were, or their mother was.
Okay, that's the weird place to start, right? Okay, if you're going to say, hey, what does everyone in jail have in common? I mean, the first thing I'm not going to think of is, oh, they were abused by their mothers or something, is what he was trying to say. He like coughed in the middle of it and could barely get it out. But I mean, the first thing I would say is, if you're in jail, everyone in jail has in common is they got caught committing a crime. I mean, that's pretty obvious. They did a bad thing. They broke the law. They didn't obey the rules. They did something illegal. You know, they hurt someone, maybe stole something, took something away, you know, did something, didn't pay for something. You know, there's a lot of options there. There's different levels of crime, sure. But what I'm pointing out is they all did something wrong. They're not in jail just because, oh, they had bad parents. I mean, that's definitely part of it. That might be like the second or third thing I would think of when I'm talking about people in prison and what they have in common. Like, I would say, yeah, maybe they had bad parents. They didn't have a proper education, maybe, or something like that. But the way Joe goes around the crime, like, he doesn't mention that they did something wrong. It's very interesting in this clip. Like, there's no mention of them doing something wrong.
Number two, can't read. Number three, they don't have any job skills. They were in a position where they didn't get a chance.
Okay, that's the rest of that clip. It's short but sweet. Basically, people are sharing this one because it's kind of interesting. He thinks that everyone in jail can't read. Now, that's a pretty interesting claim. Like, I was saying originally, I had some ideas and I was like, maybe they didn't get an education and they're just not prepared to kind of work and produce and have a life. That's why they had to steal or something. That's a natural kind of guess right there. But I wouldn't say they all can't read. I mean, maybe some of them, I'm sure a lot of them actually probably can't read, but I wouldn't say like most people, like most Americans, like literacy rate in the country is actually pretty good. I know it's not the best or anything, like we're not a top country or anything like that, but the fact that they can't read at all is just funny and interesting for him to say. And then the last part, hear that last part again. He said something else.
Any job skills.
They don't have any job skills. And this is a pretty good guess too. I mean, yeah, if they had a good job, they probably wouldn't be committing crimes, because you want to keep your job, make your money, spend your money, and live your life. Like, you would avoid crime if you had a good thing going. So obviously a lot of these criminals don't have a good thing going, but the point here is, and the thing that really interests me, is him kind of defending prisoners. It's kind of a really bad thing. I don't know what it is with Democrats. Like, they love prisoners and criminals, but they hate cops. And they hate regular Americans, but they love illegal immigrants. I don't know why it's like this so much. I mean, we have our guesses and we can assume, they want more illegal immigrants because they're going to give them votes. They want to get these prisoners out of jail because they're going to get their votes. I mean, it's part of the voting process, obviously. The Democrats recruit from these bad pools because they can't get real people, average Americans, honest taxpayers, and God-fearing Christians. Like, they can't get their votes. So that's why they have to bring in illegal immigrants, and that's why they try to defend prisoners and get them freed. That was happening a lot throughout this crisis. They've been freeing prisoners. People like Kim Kardashian are running big campaigns to get prisoners out all the time. We see them happening in the news. Like, every time someone dies, someone in the black community dies, they try to defend them and say all this stuff. You know, it's a big thing where they want to defend criminals and kind of crap on the average American. It's bad. And Joe Biden is definitely representing some of the worst of it. He's shown that he's a big panderer. He's going to tell people what they want to hear. And also at the same time, he's disrespectful and kind of belittling black communities. Don't get me wrong here, guys. I know some people might think, oh, this guy is racist. This guy is speaking out too much. But this has nothing to do with me hating anyone. I don't have anything against any races. Like, I love America and our country, and everyone that lives here is awesome in my book. But the point is, we shouldn't be kind of dishonest and, you know, defending criminals and belittling this group. Like, yes, there's a group here, and we're talking about black people, and they have a right to vote, and they have a right to vote for whoever they want. And that's what I'm saying. I'm defending their right and their freedom and the fairness. I say we treat everyone the same and not give them special treatment, which is what Biden's doing with the prisoners. And he's also assuming he's going to get a certain minority group's vote. Well, that's pretty messed up too. And in my opinion, this kind of behavior, it really needs to stop. It's also not really befitting of a potential president. That about wraps things up. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Make sure you leave a comment below and tell me what you think. Also, hit the like button. That helps get shared. And until next time, you guys have a great day.